the position that I am anti, the what I'm arguing against, is the idea that the Beatles are the best band ever. The Beatles are not the best band ever. I know it's not really a newsflash, but caveats. Let's start with a ton of them. First of all, I love the Beatles. The Beatles are a great band. They're more than a very good band. They are a great band. I love them so much. My sister has bought me a Beatles t-shirt for Christmas because she knows I'm a fan. Or I've got guitar picks that I got as stocking stuffers from my mom that had the Beatles on them. So not only am I a casual Beatles fan, I'm a sure enough Beatles fan. I enjoy their music. It's nice to listen to. Overall, it's well written. It's well played. It's artistic. The range is amazing. It can be fun. It can be sad. It can be angry. It can be whimsical. It can be serious. But they are not the absolute greatest band to have ever walked this earth, nor is their music the ultimate masterpiece of music and art combined. John Lennon is not God. Paul McCartney is not a genius. I love them and you love them. And look, I'll say this again. They are not a horrible band. This is not me saying, I just said that and someone heard me say they're a horrible band. They're not a horrible band. They're a great band. They're very, very good. But the problem is not with their abilities. The problem is not with their music or their catalog or their songs. The problem is with the label best band ever. Now, if you're going to be the best band ever, that means there's no other band that's better than you at your craft. No other bands that sold more music or sold more discs or singles than you. Not more people have. If there's an online poll and the general public is asked what's your favorite band, not your favorite band, I'm talking about the best band ever. And they are not that. They deserve to be up there in the pantheon. They deserve to be, if there's a Mount Rushmore of bands, I'm not sure if you can put them in the top 4. So what am I basing this on? James, you keep saying you love them, and then you keep talking about how they don't deserve to be on the top. Look, they can be in the top 10% even, but they can't be above people who actually know music. They can't be above people who can actually write music. This is Paul McCartney in an interview admitting, I don't think he's ashamed of it, why would he be, that no one in the Beatles knows how to write music.
I don't read music or write music. None of us did in the Beatles. We did some good stuff, though, but none of it was written down by us. It's basically notation. That's the bit I can't do, because I don't see music like that.
Well, he's admitting some big shortcomings in music knowledge. And look, music theory's not nothing. If there's a case to be made that the Beatles, these 4 guys, could have taken their music to whole nother levels if they had actually knew music theory, is a given. And so if you are not even at your own full potential, how can you be the best band ever? You, at just 60% of your potential songwriting and music crafting ability, is still the best band ever? I don't think that's possible. Look, and it's not just that they don't know musical notation. When they first got scooped up and were making an album, mass-produced album, they didn't even know some of the extreme basics of music.
George Martin said, "Can we change the tempo?" I said, "What's that?" He said, "Do it faster." Well, we don't. He said, let me try it, please. Last night inside, he said, "It's good." I said, "Oh, it's all right. Yeah, it's all right. Not bad." Bit embarrassed that he'd found a better tempo than we had.
They didn't know what the word tempo was when they were recording their first album. The fact that they learned a big chunk of music, period, means it happened after they had already started. And look, once you're already in your 20s and then you start picking up music theory and stuff, look, that's the demerit against your ability to claim that you're the best band ever. But remember, when Paul said no Beatles write music, he already had gray hair in that interview. I think that interview was around 1990 or something, which means none of the Beatles ever, through their learning process, learned musical notation. Ringo Starr, the drummer, says he doesn't know basic time signatures.
He comes into me because he'd been to India again, I think. He said, oh, I've got this song. It's like 7.5 time. Yeah, so, you know, he might as well have talked to me in Arabic, you know what I mean? And that's how I come off. I had to find some way that I could physically do it and do it every time so it came off on the time. I had no way of going, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's not my brain. So as long as I go, okay, that's 7. Good, got it.
Does that instill confidence that this is coming from the best band ever? The drummer doesn't know time signatures. He doesn't even count the drumming in his head. And to figure out any time signatures that deviate from your standard 4/4 or waltz time, no, I just figured out by slapping my knees. I don't find that real reassuring for the people I would nominate and hold high as the greatest band of all time. I got a clip from John Lennon real quick, admitting that this guy who's not even a musician, the manager, Martin, knew more about music than the band themselves.
He had a very great musical knowledge and background. So he could translate for us and suggest a lot of things. Well, we'd be saying, well, can we'll only go and e, and he'd say, well, look, chaps, I thought of this afternoon. Last night I was talking to whoever he was talking, and I came up with this, and we'd say, oh, great, we'll put it on here, Yeah. I mean, he taught us a lot, and I'm sure we taught him a lot by our sort of primitive musical ability, which is all I have still, I still have to have something to translate what I'm trying to say all the time.
Okay, so there's John Lennon later in his career admitting that he still has primitive musical knowledge. John Lennon himself said he has primitive musical knowledge, just cannot be the best band of all time. It might be your favorite band. It might be the band that if you took surveys of people on what their favorite band is, this one might get number 1. That is the most people's favorite band. But that does not mean it's the best band of all time. And I know it stinks, okay? Because who is the greatest musician of all time? You're going to have to pick someone boring and stodgy that's like technically ridiculously superior, like a Mozart or a Bach or a Tchaikovsky. And that's dumb because it's not an electric guitar and it's not the fun little music that you grew up with and that was playing when you went to the Valentine's dance in 7th grade or played at your prom or was playing at how many other people's weddings reception that you've been to. Ferris Bueller didn't get on a float and sing a song that came from Chopin. He sang a Beatles song, the Twist and Shout. These things that are part of our lives, and they're part of not just, the timeline, but these special memorable moments in our lives. That's what the Beatles are, and that's why you love them, and that's why I love them, and that's why they're so many people's favorite band. But they are not the best band of all time. They can't be. Their lack of music knowledge and music theory necessarily makes them overrated. They're popular, for the most part, they're popular because they're popular. And so when you have a band that has the inertia of so many other people saying it's the best band ever, you have seen with your own eyes over the last 20 months or so of the coronavirus pandemic, there's about 40% of the population that will just go along with whatever they think the common mainstream thought is without putting 2 cents of thought in it themselves. I think that's a big chunk of the Beatles' popularity. I get it. They absolutely defined a generation. They were on the forefront of counterculture. They evolved along with the evolution of the generation that loves them the most. But I don't have that attachment. I am post-Beatles. I was born years and years after they broke up. So I do not have the fuzzy emotional connection that interferes with my rational decision here. I'm the one that's looking clear-eyed at this. They don't know how to even write music. That doesn't mean they're not good. They did amazing things, but I would say this applies like very similarly to other professions. You cannot be the best writer in the world if you're illiterate. You may be able to come up with some good stories and dictate them to other people who can write them down, but I bet you'd be even better If you knew how to read and write yourself, I bet you out there is some author who knows how to read and write, who's probably done something more complex and better than you. This is just different because music's not a meritocracy, but if it was, the idea that the Beatles are the best band ever would get laughed out of the room. I'm not trying to insult you. You can go ahead and love them as much as you want. You don't have to throw away your Beatles CDs or delete their MP3s or throw away your Beatles t-shirt. I'm just saying, if you want to go by what's better, we could all rattle off a few albums that would be vastly superior to anything the Beatles came up with. And I love the Beatles. I'm James Parker, sitting in for John David Wells. This is the Wells Report. You're listening to the USA Radio Network.